So, that's a good thing to start with.
Lights up bright, dope, Campbell Stadium is alive. Seminoles rise and fight to survive. Helmet gleam under that blazing sun. Florida State where champions run. Seminole sideline 365. Feel the roar, we're coming alive. Garnet and gold in the battle we thrive. This is our house where legends arrive. Turf torn up under Seminole feet. The war chant pounds to the heart's own beat. Chop through the noise like a storm in the sky. 2025, we reach for the high. Seminole sideline 365.
Welcome back to Seminole Sideline 365. My name is KB. With me is the old man, and we have a special show this week. Obviously, it's a holiday week. Thanksgiving is coming up, so hopefully everyone out there is traveling, is to their destination. If you're staying at home, enjoy your break, hopefully. And hopefully, if you're trying to get away from family, this can be something you can watch in the privacy of whatever privacy you can find. But yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about the upcoming game against Florida. Talk about, obviously, the old man on Sunday did the breaking news around Norvell, so you guys have already obviously watched or read or done all the stuff around us retaining Mike Norvell. I haven't gotten a chance to speak on that yet, as I was busy on Sunday, so I haven't gotten a chance to react to that. So I'll give my little piece on that, and then we'll dive into the matchup of Florida and really the implications of it, because obviously this isn't a game between two great teams. It's once again a dumpster bowl, and the chance for Florida State to extend their season. But for Florida, I mean, it's nothing for them as well. Their season's over essentially. So outside the rivalry, this game has nothing of meaningfulness for either team really, because neither is ranked. But yeah, we'll go into that game, talk about the implications, what it can mean for Florida State and Florida, and we'll then let you be on your way. But before we get into that, old man, is there anything that you would like to bring up? Any breaking news or anything like that that you would want to get out there before we start?
A good friend of mine, Mr. Tom, and we had a great time. Actually, I was concerned going into the match. Not a match, just me and him, good friends playing golf on pre-Thanksgiving. Because I went to the driving range the day before and I sucked. I mean, it was really bad. And I said, this could be it. I mean, maybe I'm done with this game, especially when you're playing on the championship course, the 18 holes, every hole is 400, 500 yards. But, and I told Tom that when we got started, he goes, "Oh, how do you feel now at the end?" I said, "Actually, I feel pretty good." Actually, I was getting off the tees pretty good, made some good shots. Of course, I made some bad shots because, it's a game that requires a lot of attention. But we both had a really good time. The weather was just wonderful, perfect. Him and I, we didn't have to have anyone else join us. And we hit some really good shots, some, normal shots, which aren't very good. So we had a good time. Everybody was out happy. All the golfers were Thanksgiving mood. And so I had really good. And I just got home about 30 minutes ago. So I'm glad to be here to join in and hear what your thoughts are on what happened on Sunday about Mike Norvell is being retained for at least the start of the 2026 season. I've said maybe it doesn't last the full season. We shall see. But I'll be glad to listen to your thoughts on this matter before we get into Gators and what they bring to the plate.
Yeah, I mean, I think you texted me when it happened because I was out at an event, and I really didn't get to comprehend it until like 5 or 6 o'clock on Sunday, and yeah, I mean, the thing is, I'm not really fully shocked, because if anyone watches our post game reaction show, after the game last Saturday, I said I thought there was a 65% chance that retainment was on its way, and that was the course. And the reasons I cited for that was the uptick in actual commitments coming to Florida State, and that told me that I believe the admin had told him ahead of time that he was coming back, and they were conferring that to recruits. Turns out, yeah, that was true. That's the reason why people were
You have
committing
secret sources there,
amidst turmoil.
KB.
No, but it turns out that amidst turmoil, the reason why people were committing is most likely because the admin had tipped Norvell off maybe a week ahead of time or so, that the plan was to retain him unless something dramatically happened, because obviously the results didn't matter.
Well, I
Obviously,
was
the
on,
results
not to
didn't matter.
interrupt you, but I was on the sheet of music. There's no way this guy is going to come back for 2026. I would have been shocked by that. And I was shocked Sunday.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I was shocked just because of what I previously said, and I honestly, based on them not making the move on James Franklin, and still seeing the amount of jobs that are still open, those are all the things I pointed out. So I'm not backtracking, and I'm not saying I called this but based on everything that I saw and all the signals and all the noise that was out there, where we are in terms of early signing day and everything else, I thought there's more weight on him being retained under and Alford making that call and the previous press release and stuff like that than him actually being replaced. And it came true. So that's not to say I support that. That's not to say that I think it's best
But
for the
why do
program.
you think? Why do you think?
Why do I
now?
think?
Yeah,
A couple
what do
of
you think
reasons.
are the top reasons? Yeah.
And people can disagree with this and stuff like that. There's a couple of reasons. One, I think this offseason feels it's not even the offseason yet, but this season feels unprecedented, sorry, in terms of the amount of jobs that are available. Logo jobs that are available. LSU, Florida, Auburn,
Oklahoma State.
yeah, but I wouldn't group them in that. But still,
They're
big
SEC.
time logos. No, they're not.
Or Big 12. Big 12.
Big 12, yeah. But just in the SEC alone, you have big time logos, big time programs, big time history, schools that are available. LSU, like these are major
Arkansas,
programs.
LSU,
Yeah,
UF.
like
Yeah.
we haven't seen
Penn State. Yeah.
Penn State in the Big Ten. Like we haven't seen, and these are still open. These are still open roles outside of, Virginia Tech's the only one that got filled. And that was with James Franklin, who many thought would be the leading candidate for Florida State. But all those other jobs we just talked about, just in the SEC alone, have not been filled yet. And I think that's one of the things, because you have to think about, and I kept saying this, and people said, we got to get rid of Norvell. Get rid of him and replace him with who? And then replace him with who? Because it's not going to be Lane Kiffin, because we already kind of feel out who the three schools in that triangle are: LSU, Florida, and Ole Miss. And that's a mess. That's got to be huge distraction for that program. And I think they've managed that pretty poorly on the Ole Miss side. But those are the games you play with Lane Kiffin, because he likes drama. But outside of that, you knew you weren't going to get him. But who else is out there right now for all these schools? Who are the great elite coaches that could fill this position that you could, one, buy out Norvell and then afford to get? And in a bidding war environment with all these programs. Just there's too many factors at play for you to land the right guy unless you immediately went after James Franklin. And once they didn't do that, the financials in my mind didn't make sense. And I'm sure for Alford, they didn't make sense either. But I blame him. I do blame him for potentially not making the right call on James Franklin. And that will come to play. We'll see how that plays out in 2 to 3 years. He could have seen that as a lateral move. I kind of see that as a lateral move in some senses with James Franklin. And some people would say, he can do X, Y, Z. I don't know if James Franklin's a huge upgrade over Mike Norvell. I would say it's a minor upgrade, but I don't know if it's a home run hire in any means. But once he didn't make that move, I knew we weren't as likely to replace it, just because I don't think there's a ton of great head coaches available right now. And we talked about Jimbo Fisher, but you and I have discussed, I don't think that was as realistic as many people thought it to be, for many reasons. But I do think there's a lot of financials going into this, and I just think the job market is so tough right now in college football, as well as in the real economy. But in college football, it's crazy, and the scales of these contracts is out of control, that it makes it hard. It makes it even harder with especially the buyouts, and then having to then sign the next guy. So I
Do you
think that
think
all those
Florida
factors went to
State's
play.
making a statement? We're not going to get into this bidding war. You know, we're not gonna get into these bidding wars anymore. We're going to shut the door on that. Or do you think they're saying, or will this be communicated as we got money issues here? Guys who used to write checks aren't writing checks anymore.
I think it's a mixture of both. I think we've talked about this in a lot, but I think all schools need to make a stand in the put a stand in a line in the sand and say there's a bubble here. There's literally a contractual head coaching staff bubble that's happening here. These contracts can't keep inflating year after year. We can't go to 15 million per year, 20 million per year. At some point that bubble is going to burst. It's just when. Because at some point the media contracts aren't going to go higher anymore. YouTube TV and these can only jack the price so much up on their consumers to be able to pay out this much to the schools. It's going to burst. But I do believe some of that maybe. I don't know if it's necessarily all for taking a stand saying, but I do think they have to look at their books internally and say, God, we're hemorrhaging money on these contracts. And we can't afford to pay the next coach $10 to $12 million, $10 million a year, if he's not a home run hire. And on top of that, then with the buyout and then NIL funds and all this stuff, until we know there is going to be a hard cap and that's going to be enforced. That I think is the biggest thing that's missing right now is hard cap enforcement on player salaries or player NIL, whatever that is, they're going to call that, but grouping that in. So it's $20 million, not 25, because, they're offering, schools, LSU said they're offering, I think Lane Kiffin, $25 million for NIL, which were like, wasn't there a cap of 20? Like, that's the thing. There's still ambiguity over the salary cap thing. And
Well,
what that means.
that's interesting to interrupt your statement that the Texas Attorney General, I believe, I didn't read the whole article, I didn't have time yet, has put out a letter, not only in Texas, but to the major conferences, SEC, ACC, that have any, the Big 12 that have any Texas teams in them, not to sign on to anything that I believe caps the NIL money. So there's a movement afoot. There's a movement afoot not to sign on to this cap thing, which seems to be up in the air anyways. I heard some major national analysts talking about this, that some people think, or some people said that they believe that Alford, FSU AD, believes in this hard cap and that it's a rule that can't be broken, but that others do not. Kind of like the thing that came up at LSU.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff going on. And if you don't really understand it, especially as an AD or a head coach, it's going to create problems. And now with this Texas movement, it's going to be interesting down the road to see what happens.
But that's the issue. It's still the Wild West because the NCAA doesn't enforce shit consistently. They don't really provide any guidance. And like you said, is it a hard cap? Is it a soft cap? We have states now enforcing different rules.
Is it
and stuff like that.
suggested? Is it required?
Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy. And I do agree that, you have to spend to win, but I do believe there needs to be a hard cap because then you just become like the MLB, where you have some teams spend $100 million and some teams don't, but you're not run by billion-dollar owners. That's the difference. Like, there isn't billion-dollar owners managing Florida State football, or in this case, I guess it's the boosters, so it's only as much as your boosters will give. And I don't want to play in an environment like this, and we already are. But I think if we're trying to maintain the integrity somewhat of college football, there has to be a cap, or we go the way of the MLB, and you'll have the Dodgers versus the Washington Nationals.
What you're saying is you'll have major market teams versus smaller market teams. For instance,
you'll just have
the Dodgers versus the Pittsburgh Pirates. One is a major market. Pittsburgh is a minor or smaller market. And that has been very
owners
true.
who are willing
signing free agents. Yeah.
Or yeah, and or owners or management, or in this case boosters and whatever they want to call themselves in this new era, who's willing to spend the most to build the most elite roster. And that's what essentially baseball is, right? Dodgers
It
outspend
is.
everybody
It
by
is.
10x
It
to
is.
get the
It is.
best players and the best roster, and they're within the rules and they do
And the
that.
Yankees and the
Yeah,
Red Sox,
and
but
then some teams
Pittsburgh,
don't.
Cincinnati, they struggle. They're not considered major market
Yeah.
attractive to the best talent.
So yeah, and I don't want to see college, because then you absolutely, more than ever, it will just become 15. It will just be like the MLB, where you only have 30 teams who will be in
But to
college
do
football.
this, to accept this, there has to be one body that says this is a requirement. Otherwise, you will X.
Not be
And that
eligible
has to
for the
be,
playoffs,
yeah,
or
yeah,
yeah.
that has to spread across all the conferences and
Yes.
independents like Notre Dame.
I agree. I agree with you. So yeah, like I said, we kind of went down a tangent there with that, but I agree. I think Alford is looking at it from a strict financial standpoint and saying we're gonna stick to the cap. We look at our financial books. We can't afford to be in the bidding war with other schools. We don't see the right guy out there. The best financial move for the program, and the fans may not like it, because I do think he believes that there's a large percentage of fans that still believe in Mike Norvell, right or wrong. I think, there's been people that have seen tweets
I
he
don't know where
likes
he
and
got
stuff like
that
that.
impression, though.
Well, people saw like different X tweets he had liked and stuff like that inferred that. But right or wrong, true or not, I think he was looking at it more from and someone else said, and I don't believe this because I don't believe half the shit I see on X, but he's out there looking at other jobs right now. I don't know how this person could know that unless Alford told him to his face right at a bar and said, yeah, I'm looking at other jobs. I don't know how someone else could know that Alford is out there looking for other positions at other schools, like other AD jobs. If that's true and that comes out in 2 months, well, we're really fucked, because if he retained a guy and then goes and leaves in 2 months, well, that really is a screw job. That is really a screw job. But I don't believe the source, and I don't believe anyone else would know that outside of potential. Well, I don't even think the president would know that, because if I'm looking for a new job, I'm certainly not going to let my boss know that. I'm going to be doing it myself with my recruiter, and because these guys will have, or with a headhunter and agency looking for those things for me, I'm not going to let the president know I'm necessarily looking to leave. So I don't know how the source would know that. But if that does come to fruition, he does leave here in a couple of months, we really did get screwed then. Then we know things were set up the wrong way, and his mind wasn't on the bubble on this one, and that could be a very interesting development if that source is telling the truth. But
Well, one of the things too that I brought up during the statement on Sunday was the exact quotes that had come out of FSU. That's the official Seminoles.com. That's the official information, and it talked about major changes, that everybody's on board with, including Norvell, and it suggested there would be off field changes like the general manager, recruiting and acquisition, and all of that. But people are going to get kind of anxious when they're not sure when this is going to happen and who it's going to happen to. And so it'll be very interesting to see how long that drags out.
yeah, and some people are saying now this is finally when you talked about getting Ray out, yay Ray, and because he's been a horrible evaluator of talent, and that's kind of falls under his job. Tokarts, the quarterback coach, they say, what quarterbacks has he really developed since he's been here and evaluated? He should be out. Once again, I think there does need to be management changes, obviously. We'll be going to year 7. I think a lot of these changes should have been made years ago, and that really is the Atkins should have been replaced 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And then you could say, well, 2020, I mean, they gave that guy a raise twice in his tenure, Alex Atkins, and he brought in, someone had a tweet, I think it was Clay Fink or someone had a tweet that said, in 6 years of recruited offensive linemen out of high school, only 3 of them had started a game in 6 years. That's crazy. And that's one of the big reasons why you're in the position you're in. You've had, of all Mike Norvell O-line commits, you've had only three guys start a game for FSU. That is mind-boggling. But it's not surprising from how you've seen this offensive line play and how they've had to attack the portal and rebuild it every single year.
Well, the only way, yeah, you can bring in a new general manager and scope this like a NFL model and player acquisition, player evaluation, scouting. They have scouts, the NFL we're going to have scouts, regional scouts now for Florida State, consultants. You could. I mean, everything's possible, but it all costs money. And it doesn't change what you're doing, your results immediately. Okay. Especially in high school recruiting. Most high school guys are not able to start and make a significant impact. That's just the percentage. That's facts. So the biggest changes for Florida State in 2026, you would think they could win 6 games, find portal guys, which they're going to have to go to the portal, do a lot of rebuilding to win 6 or 7 games. There's going to be a lot of work done in the offseason.
Oh, yeah. And I think really the goal of that management, other than appeasing fans, which I don't think it really has appeased fans by hearing that, because how much can 1 year make? But it's really going to have to be focused on the portal.
So let me ask you this to wrap up this section before we move on to the Gator Bait pre-game show. I'm going to ask you a direct question. Do you support FSU retaining the services of Mike Norvell to start the 2026 season? Yes or no? You're waffling on it. So
I don't support it, but I understand it.
Okay.
I understand the decision.
That's fair enough. That's fair
I'm
enough.
not gonna be the fan. I just want to be clear. I understand the decision, and in that understanding, that means that I will not be actively rooting for the team to lose because I hate Mike Norvell. That's what I hate seeing.
Yeah,
no, but you see that on social media a lot. No, you would be surprised. There is a lot of fans right now who are now
I would never do that.
hoping for this team to lose moving forward. Yeah, and I think that is insane I think you and I are the most critical of this team of all the shows out there.
Media,
like we don't kiss ass and stuff like that. But
we're not selling anything to anybody.
No, this is a loss for us. Yeah. So, but we support everyone who watches and comments and stuff like that. That obviously goes a long way, and we appreciate that. But we're the most critical.
Their
but we do not wish this team to lose because we dislike the coach and his philosophy on things. Like that, when I see people say, I'm quitting on this team, I hope they lose because of Mike Norvell and his retainment.
I won't watch him.
That's not a fan. That's not a fan you're not a fan of the program.
Well, I think those are emotional things at times that people, and then they understand that the situation is more complex. I think whoever the coach is, we're rooting for the team. We're rooting for the team to do well. I've said now that I don't believe Mike Norvell is the future face of this football program. And I will continue to say that, whether it's 2026 or further into the future. I don't think he is the best future face of this football team. So
no, I would agree with you.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. Obviously, signing day is coming up. It'll be interesting to see, part of his retainment should be retaining as much of that class as possible. And it's not an elite class by any means. Once again, you lost the other day, I think yesterday, your only blue chip sort of on the fringe O-line commit. So yeah, I mean, you're kind of in the hole. You have some decent players, but I don't see any huge.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about people, or at least the media on X and some of these services, and some of the media getting excited when we sign a 3-star. I mean, 3-star to me is.
The media
average plus. I mean, that doesn't mean that they're not going to go ahead and star and be in the NFL. It just means when you're looking up just on 3 stars, it's probably not the best sign overall.
Every 3-star is not going to be the Sear twins. I mean, that was a great pull. I mean, they were committed to the UCF. They come to Florida State, and they could be the bedrock of your defensive line if you retain them.
They could.
Those are 3-star guys. And that's the issue with recruiting rankings. Like you said, this recruiting rankings aren't perfect. It's part of evaluation, but it's also part of how do you develop that player? How does that player invest in themselves and conduct themselves every single day?
And we don't track that very closely. We have said that as a program. We're not going to track that until guys sign, and then we'll take a look at them and in more depth. But we're not going to get into this, the tracking of who may come, who may not come. That's for these programs that do full time. And I think it's a waste of time. I agree with you on that.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll see how that's his biggest job right now is retaining that class and getting a win on Saturday, which is the discussion now is Florida. Obviously, Florida comes in very, very banged up. Three wins, 8 losses, 11th in the SEC, coming in with 4 straight losses. Similar to Florida State, and
they got beat up by Tennessee last week.
Yeah, they did. They had a tough loss there. They've had a couple of competitive games here and there, obviously. 34-24 against Ole Miss. So, they took that, took that tough loss by 4 to Georgia, had them on the ropes. But the last 4 have been 4 straight losses for them. Obviously, we got to find a way to win this game. Lagway has had a tough year. It'll be interesting to see what happens to him. And I think that will depend on who the coach is. Because what you find, too, nowadays in the age of free agency, NIL, whatever you want to call it, players commit to coaches. Just like you're seeing with James Franklin, Virginia Tech, a lot of the top players of that class are now going to Virginia Tech. A lot of the 4-star guys he had recruited to Penn State are now committing to Virginia Tech, and I would expect most of them to do that.
That's interesting.
And so, depending on who, obviously, depending on who, Billy, I don't think is going to be a head coach next year automatically. But that leaves Lagway in a position of, depending on who they bring in, what the offense looks like, does he come back? And if he doesn't, where does he end up? Some people I know like Lagway, some people don't. He definitely did regress this year. He's 13 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. He's actually thrown for less yards than Tommy Castellanos this year. So he has to rebuild himself too, depending on where he goes. People thought this guy could be a pro player. Now it doesn't. The game tape this year doesn't show that necessarily. So he's got a lot to prove to himself and prove that he's ready for the next level more than anything. So it'll be interesting to watch where he goes.
However, when he's on the field, he's a very good athlete. Okay, and he's a dangerous athlete. He's a guy that in a one game winner take all, he can beat you. All right. So their offense, I think, has been more inconsistent than their defense. I think their defense is definitely one that can cause you some problems because we're not elite. We're not an elite team. So let's make sure everybody understands, despite the Gators being beat up, they do have enough talent on this team to beat up another team that has looked very good, and that's us. Okay. And they're going to be motivated out of the state rivalry. Okay. That never goes away. It's a big factor in this. Be at home in the swamp. That's going to be motivation. And their biggest motivation is this is their bowl game, hoping to knock Florida State out of being able to get a bowl game. They have a lot. I believe they do a lot to play for. And I believe they're going to be very motivated. And Florida State must come in and match that motivation that we want this 6th win. We want to go to a bowl game. We want to beat the Gators because they are our state rival. It's a recruiting thing as well. And Mike Norvell has been on the ropes. So if his players really like, if the players really like Mike Norvell, they should be playing their hearts out as well.
I agree. I agree. But this is absolutely like you said. Florida's definitely got talent. I think the best player on their team, in my opinion, is and this is a game too of you got to show something for retainment. And this is I think it's tough for one of the benefits of having Norvell back is or knowing he's coming back is saying this can be he can continue to preach or he can continue to showcase who he wants to keep and say this is how we'll use you da da da. I mean, we'll talk about this next show because this is another rabbit hole. The rumors are, is Gus Norvell going to be back here next year? Because if he's not, then the offense is fundamentally changes and stuff like that. But so that'll be interesting to
That's
discuss
another
here.
show to talk
That's
about.
because there's a big rumor of he will not be back, and that's gained steam since we talked about that and what Bud Elliott said weeks ago. But the big guy, I think we really got bigger than Lagway is Javen Baugh. He's an elite. He's Jaden's an elite running back. He's only a sophomore. This is a guy that I could see leaving Florida and going to a bigger time program, a top 25, top 10 program, based on what he does with his legs and him having the ability to go to the next level. Now, this is the guy that I think could make or break this matchup on Saturday. Like I said, Florida is not an elite offense. Everything backs that up. They're averaging 16 points per game, 320 yards. They've struggled a lot at times to put points on the board. That's not to say that Florida State's defense is elite, is great. But they have done a decent job in the past few weeks of keeping points off the board. They've given up yards, but they've kept points off the board. Where they've struggled at times is with elite rushers. And I think this is one of the most elite rushers that Florida State will have faced throughout the entire year. What keeps me hopeful is that, like I said, we've bent not broken as a defense over those past few weeks when we've been facing what I thought would be elite rushing teams. Now, where we struggled is on the offensive side is to match what the defense does. Because obviously Hollywood Smothers we faced last week, very talented running back, 21 yards, 84 yards. He averaged 4 yards per carry. You kept him out of the end zone though. And he held NC State for most of the game to 14 points outside the fourth quarter in that final drive, the fourth down goal on the goal, whatever that is. Kept Hollywood Smothers pretty bottled up for most of that game. Same thing with Clemson, kept them pretty bottled up against Virginia Tech. Obviously, you kept them bottled up. Marcellus Hawkins, he had a decent day with 100 yards, 8.4, but wasn't really a factor for most of the game. It's really going to come down to this defense. Can they reduce the explosive plays? Can they get Lagway to have to use his arm to beat them? And that seems like it's been kind of the formula for the last 3 or 4 weeks is
they've had practice doing that.
Yep. Yeah, stop the explosive runs, stop the explosive plays, put them in uncomfortable 3rd and 4s, 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6. Make them have to get away from, the playbook where, the games we lost, right? With against who am I thinking about? Oh yeah, NC State. Is that when they were doing essentially not the tush push, but they brought the big quarterback in. It was 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, 3rd and 2, and we couldn't stop it when they had the big QB in because they were getting into opportune 3rd down and fourth down situations. And the defense was doing everything it could, and then the offense couldn't put anything on the board. But if we can put Florida into inopportune 3rd and long, get a big sack on 2nd down and force them backwards. And I thought against NC State, I thought the defense did a pretty good job in generating backfield pressure. It wasn't perfect by any means, but you got some pressure on the quarterback. Make DJ have to scan the field. Make him have to be a drop back passer and have to see the field. That is going to be one of the biggest keys to this game. Is making him have to sit back there and deliver the football like a true quarterback. We do not want to have Jaden Bogg have 125, 130 yards this game. Because if you look at their record, the games that they've won, the 3 games they've won, it's when he's had obviously had an impact on the game. When he goes over 100 yards, they typically have won the game. The games they've lost, he's been a non-factor. And there's a direct correlation there, in my assumption.
How about his ability to catch a football?
So for him, he's not, I wouldn't say he's a direct receiving threat. He has 200 yards in the season. But you have to respect that. So a running back with 200 yards is pretty good, and he has 2 touchdowns on the year. So you definitely have to keep an eye on them, and I think it's going to be on their radar to know that our linebackers are not athletic enough. If you put them one-on-one with a linebacker, a running back's going to be able to beat them, whether it's on a swing route, whether it's over the cross in the middle of the field, if they option them out. It's something that Florida State obviously has to be aware of. The past 3 games, he's had around 60 yards, so he hasn't been a huge factor. But in 2 of those 3 games, he's had a touchdown receiving. So it's definitely something that they have in the game plan. It's not something they use a ton, but they definitely look for him on those swing passes, and it's definitely something that they're going to try to exploit against Florida State, because we've definitely seen us give up gaps, whether it be a screen play, whether it be up the sideline. It's we have to be aware of it, and I think that's a good call out.
Yeah, again, I think it's going to be a competitive game. I think it's going to be a game that if you make errors like we saw last week with the specialty teams, that if you turn the ball over, you have a big penalty. These things could cost you a game like this, because I expect this game to be close. Missed field goals. These are the things that Mike Norvell has been talking about in press conferences, not blaming anyone specific, but he does use the word execution in key moments quite a bit. And any athletic contest, execution and key moments can win or lose a game. That is the nature of competitive sports. So I think this game will be that way. Whichever team can execute and can prevent turning the ball over is probably going to win this football game. The spread right now is 1.5 to 2.5 favoring the Gators. The over and under is 50.5, which shows they expect some scoring to go on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That could be 30 to 20, any 28 to 22. I expect it'll be somewhere in that range. So I think it'll be a very interesting game. It's slated for 4 or 4:30 on
4:30,
Saturday afternoon, and the weather should be good. I think the weather is going to be a little bit cooler, which should be ideal. So it should be a very, very competitive and interesting game.
And talking about, you said, execution, like we've talked about over and over. It's NC State game was I think summed up the year perfectly. You had, most of these losses come down to 6 points, 3 points, 7 points, 14. All these games are a couple of possessions, couple of plays, and that NC State game was just trash. And you beat yourself. And I hate when people say, "Oh, we beat ourselves." You didn't beat. I do truly believe we beat ourselves in that game. We had every ability.
You don't execute and you make mistakes, which is an execution error. I see. You can call it beating yourself, but you still lose. I mean,
No,
either way you do it.
The better team doesn't always win. That's kind of my point. The better team on the field doesn't always win. Because one team executes better than the other, and that's really what it comes down to. But in this game, when we talk about execution, one of those things is special teams too. Our special teams has been atrocious this year. And last game, NC State did cost us at least 6 points, right? And that's one thing I think we got to look at in this game. We got to be aware of. This could come. The spread is 1.5 points, like you talked about. And Jake Weinberg has been atrocious. He's 66% on field goals this year. 0 from 2 from 50.
Not having a great year.
And compare that to Florida's kicker, I believe, is 80% Trace Mack. 80%. He's 4 or 5 from 50 this year. And if it comes down to a field goal, they're going to have a prime advantage on that in special teams. So that is something that we have to be aware of in a game that is supposed to be close. We do not have the field goal advantage. We do not have the special teams advantage in this game.
And it's going to be a very, very hostile crowd. I don't know how many Seminole fans are going to make the trip in on Thanksgiving weekend. It's going to be. I have to believe it's going to be competitive. We've been competitive in every game this season. However, we've lost 6 games being competitive. The question is, in the 7th game here, I'm sorry, in the final regular season game, will we be a winner in a competitive contest? Because in this contest, there's no reason we shouldn't win this game.
No, no, there's not. I mean, the rosters are very similar. The metrics would say, you have advantages in this game. But once again, it comes down to how do you execute on those advantages and how do you execute when you get into the red zone. I mean, the red zone scoring for Florida State is not very good. It's 82% right now, 83%, 75th.
And that's been a problem the last few seasons.
And it's disappointing because you do so well, on third downs. Your third down conversions are top 10 in the country. But when you get into the red zone, that offense just stalls. It's whether it's turnovers, penalties, those are two big contributors to the stalling. But it's and I think it's too not you're not able to run it always elite, run it well because the offensive line isn't able to always get the push. But you also don't have an elite passer back there who you can drop back and deliver the football consistently either. And that's where I think this kind of gimmicky offense does stall out, because when the offense is backed up or defense is backed up and it's man on man and it's short yardage, it does get tougher to score. And when the offense, becomes more predictable in that way, that's when this Gus Malzahn offense is struggling down the stretch here.
Okay.
And that's
so
those one or two
who are you going to pick? Who are you going to pick and why?
I have to pick Florida State because I believe they can win this game. I think it'll be close. And I picked them last week and they failed me. I knew NC State would be tough. But I'll be disappointed if they lose this game. I know it'll be tough. But yeah.
I'm going to pick Florida State as well because I think this is a huge game in so many ways. Even though both teams are having very, very crappy seasons, not even worth mentioning their seasons at this point, burn the tapes for both. But I think it's a huge game for Florida State. Mike Norvell just got a stay of execution, basically, talking about execution, a stay of execution to keep him in his job for the foreseeable future until hierarchy determines otherwise. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, that is number one. He's playing, he knows this is a big game. The state rivalry, again, it's a recruiting battle for this, and for just the glory of beating your state rival. And to beat the Gators in the swamp is another big deal. And lastly, it will take the sting out of the wounds we have suffered through this season so far. So for all of those reasons, no, it's good, but it does help. You have to understand, KB.
It's a temporary.
I go back a lot further than you do, and I'm just telling you that when you're playing a Miami or a Florida, it would be tough to lose to both. I
agree.
You don't want to lose to both of them. So that for those reasons, this is more than just a game. Plus, you're getting bowl eligibility, and more practice time. Yeah. So I say Florida State wins in a close one, and that Jay Weinberg hits a game-winning field goal to regain his confidence.
That now you're doing some fantasy writing, but I hope it comes true. But the stats wouldn't back that up, but hopefully he can redeem himself, and that's how he won. I would love that for him. I would love that for this team. But yeah, and like you said, there's additional weeks of practice, help in retainment as well. Because with your coach staying, I think that makes those weeks of practice even more important to be able to talk to the players you want to keep and develop. And the Sear twins, Dancy, guys like that. I mean, Deuce Robinson should not come back. He should go to the next level. But guys you can build foundationally around, those 6 weeks could be very crucial in allowing you to develop more time, sell them the vision, sell them the hope of coming back. We can build around you. And so you can save some of those slots and don't have to replace them and go to the portal with those. Because right now, honestly, the high school recruiting class does not look great in terms of you have a 39% blue chip rate in the recruiting class right now. So you should not expect many impact players right out of high school for this class.
Yeah, that's not
so
going to happen
it's
anyways.
unfortunate.
Hey,
Well, you had some guys this past class, which you had three. You had 3 or 4 this past class, and it was we haven't had that in a while. But this next class, is big, and it's not filled with higher talent, unfortunately, based on ratings. You never know though. So
now, before your final statement for this evening, I made a promise Sunday and I failed to fulfill it because I forgot about it at the end when I signed off. I told everybody I was going to open this gift box from Seminole, from our Seminole boosters. We are Seminole boosters from our show. And I got this gift box. So I said I would open it up live, and I'm going to do that now, if that's okay. Is that okay?
That's fine.
I'm going to open this up here, and we'll see what Seminole boosters get in the mail. Okay, this time of year. It's holiday. I'm thinking it's something holiday. What do you think? What do you think it's going to be? You think it's going to be an autographed football by Mike Norvell? I don't even know how much that would be worth. Oh, okay. Here's what we got, and I'll pull it out. It looks like, if you can see it, we got some kind of cups here.
Are they
plastic? We got 2 plastic cups. Yeah, and
did they just like collect those from confetti. The bleachers after the game and send them to you?
Are you saying they would take these out from underneath the bleachers? Someone had sucked drinks out of these, and then
I hope they cleaned them. I hope they
repurposed them.
Absolutely, I absolutely
they look
believe,
brand new. They look
I believe
nice.
After a game, they probably picked up the old cups, maybe did a little wash underneath the sink, and then send them to you.
Well, they look pretty clean. But you're saying that you could actually go to a game at the concession stand, get the real big tumblers, pay that for far less than what we paid to the boosters. Is that correct?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. All right. What am I going to argue? So we got 2 cups. I'll make sure you get yours. So
all right, yeah,
okay,
that's gonna do it. But thank you all for coming out. We appreciate it. Obviously 4:30 Saturday. We'll see what the Seminoles have to offer. Hopefully they can come out with a win. Hopefully Mike Norvell has them focused, because like you said, if anything, it's a temporary relief from the turmoil that's been this season. And it
cup
can be
for my tears, Willie says.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Yes, that'll be a good use for it, or a cup of bourbon in case we get blown out. Either way, but yeah, stay tuned. Obviously, National Sign Day is coming up in a couple of weeks too, so there's gonna be a lot of news, a lot of things to track. We'll be covering it that week as well, and anything that any people jumping in the portal. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of people jumping in the portal and getting ready for it in January. So stay with us, like and subscribe, hit the bell so you can follow us and get notifications when we go live. But thank you all for coming by. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. Enjoy your break. Hopefully you all get one. And yeah, stay tuned for our next show. And as always, go Noles. We'll see you guys soon. Take care, everyone. Be safe out there.
Happy
and enjoy.
Thanksgiving.
Yes, enjoy your break. Take care, everyone.
Seminole sideline 365. Feel the roar, we're coming alive. Garnet and gold in the battle we thrive. This is our house where legends arrive. Every yard we take.